You remember that video we did about the Japanese restaurant owner who discriminated against Koreans and Chinese by banning them from his restaurant? Well, after several other Chinese Douyin influencers barged into his restaurant and complained, the Japanese government declared the owner's actions unfair racial discrimination, and then declared that either he shut down his restaurant or removed the sign and allowed them in. So what did the owner do? He took the sign down and created two new ones. One supporting Hong Kong independence, and the other straight up culpe Xi Jinping.
Well done.
And I have one suggestion. You need to put the Taiwanese flag on top, and that will make the ultimate trifecta. Now, in our previous video, there were several people in the comments who tried to play the race card on me and say,
哦，唢呐，你是个黑人，因为你们黑人都想的一模一样。如果它上面写黑人不能进来，你应该很生气，对吧？
No.
That's right, because they don't operate under the same SOP as my country, dog. In fact, I've experienced this before, not just in Japan, not just in Taiwan or China, but even in African countries where they tell you to your face, no akatas allowed here, which means non-native Africans cannot enter this place.
You shall not pass!
And you know what I did? I just turned around and went somewhere else. Is it discrimination? Yep, but I don't go to other people's countries expecting them to behave by my cultural rules. So today, I'm gonna show you something that does piss me off, and I am going to judge it hard because this went down in my country. Michelle Wu is the first Asian and first female mayor of Boston, and she's also Taiwanese. And let me tell you something. For decades, Boston has had a notorious reputation of racial discrimination and segregation. Just a few years ago, it was in the top 20 most segregated cities in America list. So for Michelle to pull something off like this is nothing short of badass. You see, this year, Michelle was tapped to host the Electeds of Color holiday party, which celebrates people of color who have been elected to office in the city of Boston. And one of her senior staff members sent out this email to invite people to attend.
Honorable members, on behalf of Mayor Michelle Wu, I cordially invite you and the guests to the Electeds of Color holiday party on Wednesday.
Blah, 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 address and time. But you see, Michelle's staff member messed up bad. Let's read her second email and see if you can spot the mistake.
Hi, counselors and team. I wanted to apologize for my previous email regarding a holiday party for tomorrow. I did send that to everyone by accident. I apologize if my email may have offended or came across as so. Sorry for any confusion that may have caused.
Now, I bet you're wondering where the mistake is. Fun fact, out of the 13 members of the Boston City Council, 7 of them are people of color. So Michelle's administration only meant to extend the invitation to them. To put it simply, no whites allowed.
Are you serious?
Yep, and the internet and news went apeshit. But there was one report that caught my attention. The usually based and unbiased news channel, The Hill, reported on what happened, and at some point, both of the hosts got into a debate.
Why can't they just have a party to celebrate the strides people of color have made in all facets of life, including being elected to Congress, that like everyone can attend?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll take that under advisement. And we should never have any specific parties or events to celebrate any discrete groups, not veterans, not people with physical impairments, not people who are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, not a Jewish celebration, not any discrete groups should ever have separate holiday parties or events in addition to the ones that are holistically celebrated.
Do you think a whites-only holiday party would generate some kind of backlash?
I think a Hanukkah event that had only white people, or a Celtic event that only...
creed-based events, not based on skin color.
We live in a country that has created a legal tiered hierarchy of a racist de jure system for the majority of the time that the country has existed. Only since my parents have been alive has that de jure system of segregation and apartheid with different laws for different people because of how they look been ended. And as a consequence, a lot of social and economic barriers still exist for people who are from those historically marginalized groups. Not because we came to America and decided we wanted to be different, because the laws of this country told us that we were. How have we now formed community groups, solidarity groups, groups, legal advocacy groups, and social groups to advocate for our equality. And sometimes members of those groups who are still advocating in many instances for substantive equality because, again, those barriers only fell very recently, want to celebrate those accomplishments and their own accomplishments as a discrete group.
There is so much wrong with this, I don't even know where to begin. Let's start with her comment about veterans, disabled, and discrete groups. Veterans went to war, suffered, for you by the way, and came back home. Many of them disfigured and permanently injured. Disabled people got an unlucky roll of the biological dice. Both of them are victims, one of war and the other of nature. The others you mentioned are celebrating their culture, but they don't exclude people. They don't say,
hey, if you never went to war, you can't join us.
In fact, there's a national holiday that the entire country celebrates to commemorate those veterans. And using the dark history of America to justify discriminating against people is grade school level logic, yo. It's like,
Well, they did it to us first, so now it's their turn.
and now Robbie is going to offer his rebuttal to Brianna's remarks.
As I just said, I don't have any opposition to a themed event that celebrates the accomplishments of minorities or calls attention to the specific plight or history of a minority group, but doing it exclusively just for people of a certain skin color strikes a lot of people as a betrayal of the very norm we're trying to get to, where people aren't treated differently based on that reality.
Okay.
Okay, well, anyway.
Robbie, if they had had a women's group, no one would have complained. If they had emailed all of the women on the council and said, we're having a ladies' holiday party, nobody would have complained.
Well, there are recognized differences between men and women. Men and women are different. Black people and white people are not.
Yes, Robbie is on point here. Brianna's attitude is terrible. Girlie, the whole point of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech was that we don't judge people based on their skin color, but on their characters and what kind of people they are. And when you use unequal comparisons like putting people of color in the same group as disabled people, you're practically calling our skin color a disability, yo. You're agreeing with what racist people say.
That don't make no sense.
Well, tell that to the government as of my mother's 5th birthday.
Okay, we're working to address those things. I mean, the legal discrimination that still exists in our society is in university campuses against white and Asian people, which we're trying to adjudicate at the highest levels of the Supreme Court to stop them from being discriminated against in the hiring and admissions practices.
Is your argument that the real racism in America is against white and Asian people at college universities, and there's nowhere else that people should be concerned about?
Racism, to the extent it's legalized and enshrined in our practices, is yes, substantially against Asian people.
All right. Well, that's a good reason for us to really go after Michelle Wu.
Wait, so you're saying that the very real fact of Asians at universities being discriminated against is just cause for not criticizing the Asian mayor who may be guilty of discrimination?
Nigga, please.
What happened to the idea of progress? Well, if you think Homegirl has lost it, wait until you hear the end of this conversation, because she's about to level up her arrogance to 9,000.
It's embarrassing, first of all, to send an email inviting a bunch of people to a party and then saying, sorry, the whites can't attend. That's obviously a screw up.
I don't think it should have been a secret because there's nothing to be ashamed of. So it's embarrassing only because there was an effort, apparently, not to clue everybody into the existence of this party. If they had just announced, we're having this party, any other affinity group party that's happening.
Well, discrimination is wrong. This seems like an example of discrimination, and we can uplift minority voices and show support in an inclusive way. Seems like something we would prefer, especially for our elected political officials. If I'm going to be disinvited to a party, it can be because I'm lame, not because I'm my skin color. I think that's how most people feel about these things, but interesting that this was highlighted, and we'll have more rising right after this.
Wow, old girl is straight bugging. She actually thinks that there's nothing wrong with government officials hosting a party and excluding a group of people based on their race. I don't know about you, but for me, this is outright racial discrimination. This is promoting exclusion of white people. Fun fact, not all white people are racist, just like not all people of color in America have experienced discrimination. And this Shell-Tie Home reporter is a goddamn disgrace, which is no wonder why this video got 3 times as many dislikes as likes, and all of the top comments expressed their disappointment.
Very disappointed in Bree defending this. No one should be excluded based on immutable characteristics that they have race. It's segregation and it's wrong. The racist mayor should be ashamed and resign.
Wow, Bree just said we should stay segregated for payback. Yeah, That's helpful as a multiracial family. Thanks, Bree.
Racism needs to be called out no matter how it presents. I'm talking to you, Brianna and Mayor Wu. This is absolutely sickening, and these people need to be fired immediately. This was a Christmas party. Peace on earth, goodwill to all.
Now, to the mayor's credit, she did apologize, claiming that it was an honest mistake, which it may have been. But Brianna's comments were no goddamn mistake. They were just racist.
You're goddamn right.
But what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Keep it civil, yo. And I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.